Hello, welcome to the Be Formless Flow Driven CEO podcast. I have been really looking forward to talking to and welcoming to the show McCall Letterle. Welcome to the show, McCall Letterle. I had it right pre-show and I just got tongue twisted.
It's a lot of L's. It's a lot of, it's what you did great. You did great.
Oh, thank you. Well, welcome to the show. And you're in Atlanta, Georgia, where you said you're having the coldest winter on record. And I'm feeling all summery and you're all rocked up.
I'm jealous of the sunlight exposure you're getting inside. No, we are pure winter over here.
Yeah, well, you look gorgeous, and I'm sending you summer vibes anyway your way. So, anyway, I'm really excited to talk to you, Paul, and I will jump straight on into it. So, you're the director of business development within the fertility space, where you lead partnerships and growth initiatives across donor, egg, and sperm services, and that is supporting clinic relationships, marketing expansion, and patient access. And you've got a story about that and how you came to that, because being in the fertility space, you were head of commercial operations in North America at QB Tech, which was advocating for evidence-based pathways into ADHD assessment and care. And apparently it's here in Australia as well, you just mentioned to me. So that's very cool. I also loved when you booked in for the podcast and I asked you what's one unique insight or a lived experience that you'd like to share when it comes to life, leadership, and or business. And it was really, really interesting. You actually really piqued my intrigue because you said, I often speak about this on LinkedIn, the difference between ROI and ROE. Now that is return on experience, but there's a second one and you have the one in big capital letters. But it's a second row, sorry, ROE. And I would love to touch on which is returned on energy. And I'm like, returned on energy, fascinating, right? Strategy sets your direction, but energy determines your velocity as a leader. So you would love to have a discussion on amplifying the capacity of the people you lead, inspiring them to foster energy towards the goal without burnout. I am totally tongue-tied today. I'm gonna have
ROE, ROI, it all ties together. But
I know, you're
no,
like Monday morning, you've got me on my mental game. I'm pulling it all together. But
I love it. No, I think this concept of just you had kind of mentioned that there just seems to be an intensity in 2025 and 2026, and
yeah,
we're feeling it everywhere. It doesn't matter what part of the globe you're in. It is all around. And I'm really just leaning into this concept that the energy that you give as a leader, and I mean that in several different ways, but the energy that you give as a leader is so important. And we're used to this concept of ROI, right? We all know that we need to measure the amount of dollars that go into something to the amount of dollars that come out of it. And that's all well and fine. But I think what's really missing is if you achieve that initial investment that you went to have, the outcome you were hoping for, how much did it tax the system that produced it?
yeah,
So how much energy do you suck out of the teams to reach these various different goals? And is it truly scalable? And
yeah,
are we focusing on leaders that are building scalable compounding energy and velocity versus, great, we hit this initiative, but now the team is taxed. They are exhausted. They can't do it again. And I think that's a really, really difficult challenge in the current market circumstances.
yeah. It's a huge one, right? And I'm with you. For the first time ever, and this is for me in 2026. Just coming into this year, talking about return on investment versus return on energy. I'm just really conscious of wanting to keep my cup full as much as I can in coming into this year and over the next, however many weeks, and put summer to the side, for example, because I know when the weather's warmer. But the point is that, it's just everywhere, right? Like you say, you go onto LinkedIn, it's like this goal, that goal. Have you got this planned? Have you got this? It's like, oh my goodness, we've just started the year. I'm exhausted reading all of this. And then I'm
Yeah.
kind of looking at it going, I have always probably been that person too, where I've had to go far, go hard, go fast now. But this year I'm just I just don't have any desire to do so.
I think we've all been operating under-resourced, more strapped than ever. I don't think it's unique to the United States. I think
No.
it's a global scenario right now. The leanest teams are the most praised teams because you're doing the most with the
Yeah.
least. And it's really tough because you've got to, as a leader, you've got to find extra energy and capacity where
I
it doesn't
agree.
really exist. And how do you do that? And so I've always been a very high energy person. My husband calls it the devil's hands. He's like, you're always moving around and
Yeah, that's
touching
why I've got
something.
this picture here. I always show everybody because it's the same sort of thing. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm not very good at that
Yeah,
yet.
you've just gotta, and I love that, but I also know that that can be exhausting, right? So there's this kind of balance between this concept of like toxic positivity. I hate that word. It gives me like chills down my back.
Same.
Um, but you could have a leader who's just rah, 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 hype energy, and it's not authentic. It's not acknowledging the lack of resources and how strapped everybody is. And it truly is toxic in its sense.
Yeah.
But then there's this other side where if you can actually structurally invest energy into the team in a way that's kind of like a force multiplier, like it expands the capacity of the team because you're reaching energy that is underutilized, and so you're pulling more capacity out of people because they're excited to move towards what you're doing.
Mm.
um, and that's where, the more and more that I look around as teams have gotten thinner and companies have made more cuts, I'm starting to look around going like, wait, where are the energy leaders? Like, where are the
Yeah.
ones that are supposed to rally the troops? And that's becoming more challenging.
Yes, I love this. I love this whole conversation around, I studied pranic healing. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's all around energy and everything else. And I studied it years ago. And what you're just talking about now, like it's bigger than just like motivation, isn't it? Like that intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. This is about like what's coming out from within and how are we energizing ourselves? How are we coming as leaders from a whole self place or a whole being place, if you like, to be able to
Yeah.
ensure that the rest of the team is energized to be able to bounce forward and work through all the change that is not going away, technology, everything that's happening. Like, I thought that AI might settle down this year, but then I'm getting told, no, it's absolutely not. But then other people are like, yeah, it's going to. And I'm like, oh, okay, what's going to happen here? But at the end of the day, nothing's slowing down. But we've got
Yeah.
to find a way to energetically be able to slow things down, but also keep the levels up so that we can continue to work through all the different, kind of ways and I guess the way we need to be, operating to succeed. But this is around reshaping and redefining success, if you ask me, as a leader as well.
100%. I think there's kind of two sides to it that I see. Is it's not just the enthusiasm, because I think if you
No,
give the enthusiasm without structure, it won't achieve what you want, and
agree.
it'll exhaust the already exhausted.
Yeah,
Then you're just
yeah,
the annoying buzzing in somebody's ear. I think that leaders who can really give clarity to a project, acknowledge what the challenges are. So acknowledge the environment that we're up against. We're under resourced, the market's constrained, whatever those elements may be. Call them out, acknowledge how challenging that they can be, get them out into the open, and then really try to energize a team towards a direction where you're being really authentic about the fact that you don't believe in like where you're going necessarily, but you believe that the people you've got on the team can get you there.
mm,
And so you're driving and setting up that ownership and the guardrails for the project and the ways in which they are going to be able to move and breathe within a project without the pressure of like, but did you hit the targets? Did you hit the targets? Did you hit? We don't know if we're going to hit. We just acknowledge that the market's tough and we're extra thin, but I know that we can do X, Y, and Z. And so let's focus on that. And I'm here to support. And, I believe you can take ownership and you can make decisions. And so you kind of set up this structure where you're investing your energy in the structure, and then you're investing your energy in the confidence that you have in the people you've got. And if you're not confident in those people, you need to make some changes. But,
totally.
I think that's kind of the part there. And then you can add the enthusiasm. Then you
Agree.
can be the woo, the conviction, and people follow conviction, they don't follow plans.
No,
And so if you lay
yeah,
it out and say, I want you to do this, that nobody's going to run towards that, and
yeah.
you're going to have no capacity. Like everybody's just going to do what they've been doing as long as they've been doing it.
Yeah, and that's part of, I think that's part of the opportunity, isn't it? Coming like in now in this year, really, because everyone has just been doing the way they've always been doing things. And this is where people are leaders, teams, individuals, we're just unfulfilled. Like, we're going to come onto purpose shortly. And, you had a purpose calling to get into the fertility space, right? But like for me, like, yeah, it isn't all just high being up here and like you say, that toxic positivity, but it's the ability to have this collective energy within a team so that everyone's fulfilling what it is that is purposeful to them.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, getting something out of it, like it's meaningful and it matters to them what they're doing versus just coming in and doing the job. And, some people that's all they want to do. But I think that more and more, like, we spend so much time at work. Like, how can we make it feel like it is more energizing and purposeful, And I think that everything you're talking about from a team perspective, you do have to empower your team. You do have to have the high performing team around you because otherwise, how can you hold it all together as a leader? You just can't. It's just not possible. You will just
And there
burn.
is this, like, energy. People like to think of it that it's finite. It's not finite, it is infinite, but you do like a cost benefit analysis in your head to say, where do I want to put my energy? And so if you're exhausted at work and you're like, I'm just not going to go, I'm not going to do it anymore, it's going to trickle down. And so if you can really invest that energy, if you can build that momentum, if you could set up that structure, then you're transferring your energy down to the team. And
Yeah,
all of a sudden you start to see that like
yeah,
momentum builds and people are making faster decisions and things are accelerating. And then all of a sudden, I always visualize it like a snowball. And I don't know how much snow you get. You're not in the snow mood right now, but I am. But like if you take a snowball and you kind of pack it, it's just the small snowball. But if you want to take the snowball and you want to build it into a snowman, right? You're going to roll it in the snow and it's going to start to like get bigger and bigger and it forms into something else. If you can get that energy and momentum going in your team, all of a sudden the capacity of the team
mm,
expands.
mm,
Because now you're tapping into like energy reserves that were there, but like untapped into.
yeah,
And all of a sudden, the team that was resource strapped before is just running fast and they've got more capacity and they've got the ability to do it because they're excited about it. And that's how I feel like leaders now in the scenarios that we're all in, which is under resourced and high pressure, you don't get more out of people by pushing harder on them. You get more out of people by getting them excited to do what they're doing and do it in an environment that is very confident, that you know that they're not going to need like micromanagement and
yeah,
oversight.
totally. Yeah. And it's regenerating, right? Like how do you keep regenerating the team? Like back to like exactly what you're talking about. And so how do so like have you always been into like this, ROE, return on energy? Like is this something new? Like I mean obviously, as a leader yourself and with your own team,
Yeah.
it's like it's sometimes I know when you've had a team and it's like sometimes you're like dragging them along, you're thinking, and especially someone like you who's high energy, because I'm high energy too, right? Like type A personality. I've had in the past people go, I don't know how you do it, B. Like you just kind of seem to always be like up. And I'm like, I don't know, it's just something in me, right? Like I'm not always up as I'm, like I have my moments, don't get me wrong. Like people just see me when I'm like generally energetic, right? But yeah, like, yeah, how have you done it with your team?
Yeah, it's definitely been a learning curve. And I think that's really where I started to focus in on this ROE, because I do think for the last couple of years, this concept of toxic positivity has been really big. And when you've got so much energy like I do, and you run fast often and you do these things, you start to be really hyper aware of what's around you. And so like as I started growing in my career and I started building and my team started getting bigger and bigger, that level of energy works for a small group. But then you start to add more personalities to that group, and that type of energy needs honing. So, you can definitely try to do it where don't worry about what's going on over there. We can ignore that. We're going to do great here. That's the kind of toxicity where you're not really acknowledging that this is a true barrier for us to overcome. And so I've had to kind of learn and shape it over the years. But where it's really worked and where it's been fun is that if you can really set up a framework where people feel like they have decision-making rights.
Yeah.
And maybe they still need, some touch bases, and they still need a little bit of, loose micromanaging, but the decision is theirs to make.
Yeah.
And you are kind of giving them some guardrails. Then all of a sudden you're building confident people. And that's really where I've found so much fun is seeing people's careers evolve and change who have reported to me.
Yeah.
And
I love that too.
On that, it's just, I can't control this energy, so I've got to hone it.
No. Do you ever feel like your energy, do you ever get depleted? I mean, you've got two young kids, is there ever any moments where you're just like, I'm exhausted, energetically I'm zapped?
I don't know. I hesitate to say no, but I think my husband would tell you no, she doesn't get exhausted. I do have this boundless energy. I get more frustrated and defeated than I do fully energy exhausted. And I don't know what that balance really is, but I know how tough it is to be in a scenario where you feel like it's not worth putting any energy in because you're defeated, you're exhausted, you don't feel supported from your leadership. That's probably the areas where I get the most challenged.
Yeah, I think so too. Depleted, you just feel like, well, that's for me. But that's when I feel like I'm just zapped, and I'm like, why am I even bothering? I get into that point, right? And I think that can be challenging for leaders because then when that happens, I've in the past gone, I'll just do it myself. And that's not a good way to be either, right? Because that's not empowering your team. That's not building the confidence in your team. That's the complete opposite. But I think when you have got the high energy, it's also that sense check, isn't it? To be able to go, all right, they're not as high energy as me. So I have to take, I've had those challenges as a leader when you have, making sure that you're taking people on the journey as well, kind of remembering not everyone's at the same energy levels of me. And I think that's the other interesting part of a team, right? Not everyone is always at the same energy levels. So it's playing to the different energy beats, if you like, within the team. How do you manage that then in the business you're in?
Yeah, it's a good question. I try to regulate it as much as possible. I think starting an initiation of a project is where it's most important.
Yeah.
They have to feel like they believe in the direction you're going, that they understand how, because it's all in your brain. And I get really excited. I land on a project and I'm like, I can't wait to share it with everybody. And here's what it's going to look like. And nobody has an understanding of how I've arrived at the start of this project. So I really try to get some good structure, but really try to deliver that structure and then enthusiasm together at the start. And then I really try to modulate it because then it's, you've gotten the ball rolling and you're there to help get it rolling a little bit more, but then it needs to organically build its own energy. And I think to do that by starting to see their own successes within the project. Oh, we thought it could kind of look like this, and I've done this. And now all of a sudden their energy is growing and expanding within the team. They don't need so much of your energy anymore. And so you can kind of back off. But I do feel like that transfer of energy at the beginning of a project is really important.
I love that. Such a cool analogy and just a way of explaining it as well. I really love that. Tell us, I want to pivot the conversation because you obviously, like we talked about with QB Tech, which was, around ADHD assessment and care, which sounds like it was huge. I'd love to hear a little bit about that. But then you also said to me that you had a bit of a calling to get into the fertility space. Can you share a little bit about your journey with, sorry, you go.
Yeah, I'm similar to you where I need to follow passions and I don't feel like I could ever sell windows and doors. I have to be passionate about what I'm doing. And that was how I got into ADHD. So I actually, gosh, now almost 2 decades ago, had a family member, more than 2 decades ago, but this is when I got into it 2 decades ago. I had a family member growing up that was severely affected by a misdiagnosis in
Ah,
ADHD. And we really got to see what happens when ADHD gets identified very late. And
yeah.
then we get to see what happened when ADHD was properly identified, properly treated, and that individual became really successful.
Mm.
Um, and so I wanted to be part of that. So I got into the field of ADHD for that exact reason. And again, maybe that's part of the energy is like then I had the energy and the passion, the momentum to go towards it. And I did that for just under 12 years, leading a commercial team, a clinical team, and a market development team
Mm.
for that there in the US. And then just felt this calling that as I started my own fertility journey, about 4.5 years long. And I said, I think I'm supposed to do exactly what I'm doing right now, but I'm supposed to do it in the fertility space. But I think the fertility space is hard to get into because it's a complicated
Yeah, I
business.
was about to say, how did you get like so you've done your own IVF journey because we were talking, I've done IVF too. You were successful, I wasn't successful. But like you said to me pre-show, you're forever changed whether you were successful or not when it comes to doing IVF because it's so I don't even know how to explain it. Like it's just so like personal is not even the right word, is it? But it's just, I don't know. It's just, unless you've been through it, you can't even understand it. And that's not being disrespectful. But do you know what I mean? Like, and then to go and then go into the, pardon?
Yeah, it's completely accurate. It's like at a cellular level, everything has changed in you. You
Yes.
think about the world differently. You think about the things you were promised when you were younger differently. And I really invested myself, as I'm sure you did as well. I feel like we all, when you start IVF, you need to know everything. You're in every Facebook group, you're on every blog, you're diving in. I joke that I feel like I became an ROI or an REI in that moment because I was like, I just need to know everything.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of confidence and support from the IVF community while I was going through it. And that really just helped to kind of charge that, like, I can take this on. I've been in this community, as you said, you have to be in it to understand it.
Mm.
I was in it from a different side. I wasn't in it on the business side, but I've
No.
walked the entire patient journey.
Yeah.
And I've invested in my connectivity to the community of many people who did not have the same outcome.
Yeah.
And so I could really understand, wow, like this individual invested exactly the same amount that I did, the same amount of money, the same amount of energy, and had a completely different outcome.
Mm.
And oftentimes, these people that I was connected to in these groups, I was as devastated for them as the next person. You get so connected to the stories. So I just knew it was something I really wanted to be a part of.
Amazing. Because you go in you're in when you're in the fertility, when you're in it yourself and you're doing it. And as a businesswoman, as a leader, I mean, again, coming from the background I'm in, like the care, the customer care, and like, every step, because there's all the different procedures and steps you have to take when it comes to IVF, right? I was analyzing every bit of it, and I was like, oh, that's not. I feel like I'm a cow in a cattle station right now. Like there was just various aspects.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
as a business leader, like you can't help but start to go, oh, there's got to be a better way to do this because if I'm feeling this, and it's fascinating that you've come from ADHD, the career you were in, and from a family member, and then having your own, and that was a lived experience, but then having your own very, very personal lived experience when it comes into fertility. Do you think it's changed you as a leader as well? Like, do you think that moving into this space, going through it, we're talking about return on energy. Do you
Yeah.
think and that we change as people once we've been through the IVF. What changed for you as from a leadership perspective, do you think as well?
It's a good question. I'm sitting here, I'm like, wow, I don't know. I think about that for a second. I I think the level of empathy and not sympathy, genuine empathy that I go into things with has become much more laser focused, much more precise.
Mm.
You know, I could be empathetic in the mental health space and I could understand it, but there's such a fragility to the IVF experience
Mm.
that when you're on the business side of it, every decision I go through, you have to understand that like there is a human on the other side of that decision. And
Yeah.
there is an expectation of motherhood or parenthood is dangling with X, Y, and Z decision. And so the force in which you go at teams with needs to be very different. The empathy and the understanding of the outcome that it means for real people and real lives has to be at the forefront of everything you do. So then you can't have that exhausted team. You can't have the
No,
team that spent
no.
because they've got ROI pressures and all these other things because they're dealing with individuals who are walking a very exhausting journey themselves and they need you to be the one that transfers their energy. And so you've got to, as a leader, kind of get that into the team to touch those points. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a good question. I think maybe just more care, more delicate, more something.
Yeah, I love the term fragility because in a way, it is it's such a fragile time, and it's and I talk a lot about being anti-fragile in business. How do you, or as a leader, as a person, how do you like not just bounce back from a resilience perspective, but how do you have that ability to bounce forward? But we always have this, we always face fragile moments, and yet, you're dealing with them every single day, really, in terms of in the fertility space. And so that the ability to influence that energetically, through the empathy, understanding people as human beings, I think it's so important in the fertility space. But then it can also transcend into all the different other industries that, that the world, like that we're in, well, everywhere, right? Like I just think it's so important. And this is where I don't think you know, we talk about this stuff enough. Like there should be like you should write a book on return on energy. You should have a leadership. I'm already feeling that book coming out.
It is something about like when we have boundless energy like this, you've got to control it, but you've got to
Yeah.
share it.
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure that you are not maxing it out in others.
No.
And that is the part where I really think that our obligation to the customer is to make sure that like our teams are not maxed out
Yeah.
and that they're not depleted. And yeah, way more important probably in the fertility space, but you're right, so many other spaces, finances, mortgage lending, all these
Yeah.
types of things are touching really delicate conversations for people's lives. And if you've got a team who's just, completely spent, too cautious to make their own decisions, it just becomes a lot.
Yeah. I've got two final questions for you because I know it is Sunday evening and you're probably wanting to get and sit in front of the fire and watch maybe a movie with the family or something. I'm just kind of picturing it right now in the winter, right? But you tell me, I want to come just on the fertility space, right? When I was doing IVF many moons ago, when I first froze my eggs, I did it late in my like late 30s. It was just a taboo. Like I was a leader. I told one person at work and I was literally injecting myself every day. Hormones were going wild, even the day I had the egg collection, when you're having the trigger gun, like all of those things. And I did it a few times, like quite a few, like I can't, I think it was 5 rounds of egg freezing or whatever. Um, and it was just, because I was so scared to let anyone know that I was thinking about having a baby because I was like baby career and I was worrying that as a female that I would get, you know, what's the word? Like looked upon as, oh, she just wants to be a mum and she can't climb the ladder. Do
Yeah.
you, and I don't believe in climbing a ladder anymore either, but do you, like, what do you see now, like, in terms of women? Like, I mean, I know that a lot of companies now pay for women to get their eggs frozen, but do you still, has it evolved? Like, do you still see, are there still a lot of women out there that are, you know,
A
fearful?
lot of women are a lot more vocal to peers, I will say, from when I was going through it. And I would say when it comes to maternity, I think that there's there's a mix of both. There's a lot more understanding that, you do come back and you can be both ambitious for your career and ambitious for your family. I think I'm now in a company that, really understands that, because we're helping build families constantly. So it may be a little bit skewed, but I think it's a very fair assessment that this is a hard thing to talk about, that like, because you're planning a fertility journey, you may be overlooked for
Yeah.
promotions or things that you can be added to. I think that fear is still very real.
Mm.
But I have found, during my journey, I had a male leader who also went through IVF 10 years previous.
Wow.
And that was really interesting because the support I got was unconditional. And I think that was very unique for me, like
Yeah.
for women. I got a celebrated every time. I was nervous to tell them I was pregnant. And instead, I got a huge
Oh, how
scream from
good.
my male boss, things that were really exciting. But I don't think that that's always the experience for everyone. There are these kind of pockets and niches, but I was very upfront with mine from the start. It was, again, this boundless energy. I had to get it out
Yeah,
somewhere.
totally.
So I talked about it a lot. And maybe I should have cared more about the risk.
No, I love that you're sharing it. And I guess then what would be, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. I generally ask everyone a question like, what would be one piece of advice or some words of wisdom that they would like to leave like at the end of the show with? Is there anything that you've
I,
given
I
so
think,
much?
I think it is to review your energy as a leader, to do like some sort of inventory check-in with what level of enthusiasm and confidence and conviction and warmth and engagement are you bringing to the team, and how are you fostering belief around your ideas.
Mm.
I think we don't often think about that, because what we're thinking of is, how are we going to hit our number? What's the number going to be this
Yeah.
month? Where are we going to go? And we rarely sit back and go like, does my team even believe in me? Do they believe in what we're doing? Do they believe in the direction we're going? So I would definitely try to, I think men are more challenged to think about this
So
concept
do I.
than women are.
They're like,
And
woo woo, whatevs. Like, what are you talking about? Oh gosh, don't come to me about energy. Like,
yeah, so I think male or female leaders, just think about that. And then think about if it's not something that comes natural to you, because I do think a lot of people it doesn't come naturally. How can you do it in your own authentic way that is natural? How can you invest energy in the project? And how can you build this momentum for the team that gives them that confidence and conviction, even if you're not like, woo?
yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love it. And I think so early in the year, like rather than kind of getting all caught up on your goals and, like what all the pressure and all that hustle, maybe, what if we just did an ROE for where the energy levels are at and what's our energy plan? What's our energy management plan, if you like,
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
next, for next quarter rather than for the full year. And we just keep, having those regular energy check-ins. I think it's so important.
An energy management plan. Oh my God, I love it. I need that. I
Yeah,
need to.
so you just well, I've got one. Like, I actually have an energy management plan that I use with clients, and I've just remembered it. Like, and I'm like, oh, there it is. I've got it. But yeah, you can borrow it. Totally take it. Like, energy management plan. We need one. It is. It's important. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Like that. Yeah.
I think it's so important. And like, how do you value it? If you are managing a large team and you're really high up within a company, my advice would be, how do you emphasize that energy management is valued in your company?
Yeah.
I think that's the other challenging part, is if it's not valued in the company, it's hard for leaders to take it on and find space for it. So how can you look around to your middle management and make sure that you're emphasizing the things that will help to ultimately get you to your
Well,
revenue goals or your
yeah.
business goals.
Yeah, if energy is in check, the rest follows, if you ask me. It's like, yeah, it's a good one. Oh gosh, I feel like we could write a whole program on energy right now. I could see us just on the whiteboard just going like crazy, like like a whole Anyway,
I
well,
love
I
it. Well,
love
thank you for having
so,
me.
McCall, it's been amazing. And I love that you are reshaping life, leadership, and business, as am I, when it comes to in terms of just the old world of leading and doing business as we know it is just not sustainable. There is a new way to do it. And I love that you are, a trailblazing a new way, energetically. And, yeah, you've just reminded me to bring back the energy as well. So I love it. So thank you so much for coming on the show. How do we find out more about you? How do we read this article that you wrote recently or a while ago around ROE? Yeah, where do we find you?
Mostly LinkedIn. It's kind of my morning coffee diary. It's how I get all of the thoughts that are building up in my brain that I don't want to dump too much onto my team. So I really love to just interact with leaders, interact with individuals. So definitely my LinkedIn's the best spot.
Amazing. I've got that there. All right. Well, I'll drop it in the show notes. And McCall, have a wonderful Sunday evening and a wonderful week ahead.
You as
Thank
well.
you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.